This is a chapter in the epic of America called Arizona, the land of sunshine and blue skies. Arizona in area is the fifth largest state in the Union, a sunlit expanse of cactus-covered desert and mesa, of mountain, plateau, valley, and canyon. In population, the state is one of the smallest, with only 750,000 people scattered over the endless miles. Arizona is the youngest state in the Union, the state of tomorrow, the second fastest growing of all these United States. She wears her adjectives well. Land of time enough and room enough, land of big distances, the lonely land, land of little rain, the copper land, land of flaming sunsets, Arizona, land of color and contrast. The Arizona story is the story of people, yesterday and today. The traveler can visit the dusty past, for here are the remains of civilizations that flourished long before Columbus made his eventful voyage. Betatakin, in a great cave north of Tuba City, is one of the largest and most spectacular of these ruins. Farther south, overlooking the banks of the historic Verde River, is Montezuma Castle, where nearly 1,000 years ago there lived a race of people believed to be the forerunners of the present-day Pueblo Indians of Arizona and New Mexico. These primitive engineers built well. In the heart of the desert is Casa Grande, where the Hohokams constructed a busy village, tilled the soil, and lived in peace in a world of sunshine and cactus. They are gone now, these early ones, but these silent ruins speak eloquently of their times. Then came the Spaniards, and at Loquil, near Nogales, a marker shows where the Spanish conquest of Arizona began. This way came Cabeza de Vaca, Coronado, Marcos de Niza, and Father Kino, who left their marks on the land. Tumacacori Mission is a reminder of the days when Imperial Spain was in her glory. The good friars brought to the Indians domesticated animals and a knowledge of farming. Apache depredations caused the abandonment of the mission, and it was forsaken until restored by the National Park Service. The mission of San Xavier, White Dove of the Desert, is one of the most beautiful Spanish missions in America, and continues to this day as a shrine for the Indians living nearby. It is a famous scenic attraction for visitors to Tucson. Here, time seems to stand still. Tubac, now a placid hamlet on the broad highway between Tucson and Nogales, in the fertile Santa Cruz Valley, was established as a Mexican presidio in 1752. During the middle of the last century, it became the center of a rich mining district, and here the first printing press was set up in territorial Arizona. A traveler in 1859 wrote that the very elite of Arizona called Tubac their home. But the name synonymous with Arizona's wild and woolly pasts is Tombstone. They called this the town too tough to die. Established as a boom silver mining camp, Tombstone's name and fame was blazed across Arizona's history in a crescendo of roaring 6 guns. With finger-quick Westerners like the Earps, Doc Holliday, and the Clanton Boys making history, as in this reenactment of a fight at the OK Corral. At Boot Hill Cemetery, grave markers remind us of younger and more exciting days. From the very beginning, the name of Arizona has been associated with the desert. For decades, it was a place to be avoided, a land of brooding silence and danger, harsh and forbidding, bristling with thorns, its heat oppressive. But then, as now, when spring waved her magic wand, the parade of gorgeous flowers was thrilling to see. Memorable deserts are the Joshua in bloom, the carpets of spring flowers, the gay and colorful beaver tail, the hedgehog cactus, the ocotillo, and the palo verde tree. Symbolic of the desert is the giant saguaro, the largest of all cacti, whose cylindrical trunk stores moisture to withstand the severest drought. The creamy white blossom of the saguaro is the Arizona state flower. The ancients tried to irrigate by the use of crude canals, but were unable to build proper dams, and their efforts failed. Then a miracle happened to the desert, a miracle called water. The construction of historic Roosevelt Dam on the Salt River was the beginning. It could be stored for thirsty farmlands below to be used when it was needed. Then a dam was built on the Gila River, and another triumph in modern reclamation was achieved. As one man said, "Just get water on desert land and you can grow fence posts." The early settlers who had the courage to remain learned that you just can't depend upon uncontrolled desert rivers. But these pioneers had vision as well as courage, and so they dammed the rivers, built canals, and tilled the soil. What was once desert in the Salt River and Casa Grande valleys is now a productive farm and citrus empire. Arizona is a major cotton-producing state, and not just ordinary cotton, but superior cotton, produced in record yields per acre and used for fine fabrics. New farming methods and the use of modern farm machinery plus reclamation has changed Arizona from a bleak frontier to a land of wealth and opulence. Hoover Dam is another glorious chapter in man's struggle to reclaim the desert. This colossus of concrete and steel has tamed the wild bandit of the West, the Colorado. This river, once described as too thick to drink, not thick enough to plow, has learned better manners and has been put to useful ways, a faithful servant of the people. Great canals carry Colorado River water to the desert around Yuma, and the results have been astonishing. Yes, desert soil is fertile soil, and bountiful are the crops that come from it. Lettuce is grown on hundreds of acres, and carrots are shipped by the carload, for now nearly 1 million acres of fabulously rich Arizona desert land produces crops valued at $250 million yearly. That is pretty good for land once considered worthless. But in colorful contrast, Arizona isn't all desert. The mountain pine and the mesquite are closer together than you may think. Only a short forenoon's drive from the very heart of the desert will bring you to Flagstaff, and you can soon be whizzing down a steep mountainside of the San Francisco Peaks. Flagstaff's famous Snow Bowl is a winter sports recreational popular throughout the West. Here they come, enjoying one of the most exhilarating of winter sports. And but a few miles below is the desert and eternal summer. Arizona is truly a land of surprising contrasts. Where you find mountains, you usually find trees. And in Arizona, you find a lot of trees. In fact, the state has the largest standing ponderosa pine forest in the United States, a forest that supports a large and important lumber industry, which has its center around McNary in the White Mountains. One lumber firm alone employs nearly 800 people who produce in a single hour enough finished lumber to build 2 5-room houses or nearly 17,000 houses per year. Arizona lumber producers, working under the United States Forest Service's Sustained Yield Program, harvest. Turning from sawdust to hamburger, we find in Arizona the West where the steaks begin. Arizona cattlemen are always searching for better beef cattle for their ranges. One answer is the Brahmas, heavy, gentle in demeanor, a natural critter for the desert foothills. And you find the noble Herefords, fine range cattle, worth their weight in gold, judging from the price of roasts. Some of the finest Herefords in America are bred in Arizona, for the state's cattlemen are always improving their herds by additions of prize sires. Among Arizona's finest cattlemen are the fierce Apaches who turned back the tide of civilization on the Arizona frontier for 300 years. These cowhands shoeing horses for the spring roundup are the Apaches of today, progressive, prosperous, with plenty of cattle know-how. The same upheavals in the Earth's crust that left such fantastic rock formations as Chiricahua National Monument, Arizona's wonderland of rocks, brought much wealth to the surface for man's use. Copper is the metal of civilization, the metal of peace when the nation's economy is expanding, and the metal of defense when the aggressor threatens. Arizona's copper mines include the great open pit at Ajo. Important names in copper mining are the famous town of Bisbee, Jerome, picturesquely clinging to a hillside, Douglas and Miami, Castle Dome, Hayden, Morenci, and others. From their diggings and their smelters come more copper than from any other state in the Union. Arizona is proud of the 4 C's of her economy: citrus, cotton, cattle, copper. But her fame and name has been spread far beyond her borders by another C, climate. Each winter from all over the world come visitors to relax and rest in the sun-drenched desert of Arizona, where accommodations have been provided for every purse and personality. Dude ranches, large and small, great resort hotels, inns, auto courts and trailer courts. A veritable industry has arisen to cater to the comforts of the sun seekers and to those who love to ride in the great out-of-doors. The West is noted for its hospitality, and in Arizona, it is reflected in the warmth and friendliness of its people. Here, fabulous dude ranches combine the easy informality of ranch life with all the comforts of fine living. glamorous hotels with all the charm of the Old West, where you can rest and relax in the sun. At Dude Ranch or Hotel, the service and food are unsurpassed the world around. When the fiddler is in fine fettle and the crowd a gay one, you can swing your partner and do-si-do and have good old-fashioned Western fun. If you are interested in Indians, you'll enjoy the powwow at Flagstaff, staged each year during the 4th of July holidays. Indians gather here from 11 western states to put on a gala celebration. This is an all-Indian show. Others can only have the fun of watching. And for those interested in Indian arts and handicrafts, the powwow is more than fun, it is an education. The Hopi girl painting clay pottery might be in her own home deep in the reservation. The weaver's art comes down from generation to generation. Skilled and patient fingers create art pieces of lasting beauty and worth. At Wickenburg, you can have fun in the sun and get away from it all in the famous ride of the Desert Caballeros. The Desert Caballeros are businessmen from all over the nation who forget their worries, don comfortable riding clothes, and have the time of their lives during their several days under the sun and stars. They ride together and live together when the desert is alive with spring's beauty. Over the hill and far away are the cares of the modern business world. Here there is clean air, good fellowship, and the thrill of following the lonely trails. In Arizona's capital city, Phoenix, yesterday a stagecoach stop on the dusty frontier. Today, a progressive city. You find a pleasant community of modern homes set amid flowering gardens, homes typical of those found throughout Arizona. Proud of her present and future, Phoenix remembers fondly her wild and woolly past, and each year in April stages her spectacular rodeo that brings together the tops in riders and the best in horseflesh. A real Western show that only a genuine Western town can stage. The parade is a procession of high-stepping bands, colorful riders, and prize Western horses. 200,000 people line the streets to see one of the West's most thrilling events. When the parade is over, many hurry to the rodeo grounds, where champion performers in the field of rodeo vie with each other for top prizes. Ride 'em high and hard for fame and glory, for the plaudits of the crowd. People live well all over Arizona, and Prescott nestling amid the pines of Yavapai County, typifies its progressive cities. She honors the memory of the legendary Bucky O'Neill, one of the roughest of the Rough Riders in the Spanish-American War, who stayed with them while he lasted. Prescott also remembers her thrilling chapter in the history of the West. Here, way back in Abe Lincoln's day, was the first Arizona territorial capital. Nogales, on the southern border, is where Arizona and Mexico meet. Across the boundary passes an increasing flow of international traffic, trade, and tourists between the United States and Mexico's great west coast. Yuma, bordering California on the east, is an up-and-coming farm town on the desert, whose grow Colorado River water to fertile desert lands. Desperados of the Old West served time in the territorial prison, now a museum of Western relics. Tucson, the old Pueblo, is one of the oldest communities in America. As spick and span as a new penny, this city, beloved by tourists, has many attractions. It is the home of the University of Arizona, the culmination of Arizona's great educational system, something of which all Arizonans are vastly proud, and rightly so. Sun and scenery, that is Arizona. For sheer, unexcelled beauty, visit the Painted Desert at dusk or dawn. Aptly named, this is the desert where nature has spilled her colors by the bucketful. A hole nearly 600 feet deep, caused by a meteorite which struck the Earth more than 1,000 years ago. The scenic-minded usually start off at the Petrified Forest near Holbrook, where you can lose yourself in a strange and beautiful land. Huge logs, now turned to agate, are reminders of ages of long, long ago, when an ancient sea covered this part of the earth. Great trees were washed into a vast basin and buried deep below mud and sand, and then in time, hundreds of thousands of years or more, the trees turned to stone. Their bright colors and their strange and weird patterns were caused by oxides of iron and manganese, plus eons of time. The Grand Canyon, Arizona's greatest scenic attraction, is all things to all men. A kindly and important man, when he first saw it, remarked, "Golly, what a gully." A humble farmer from Iowa looked into the unfathomable depths and said, "Heck of a place to lose a cow." The Grand Canyon has inspired poetry, painting, and music. But perhaps the greatest tribute has been paid by the hundreds of thousands of people who have stood in silent awe, surveying the spires and immensity of this great natural creation. Much has been written on Arizona Canyon. It is sun, shadow, silence, and mystery. The world's most wonderful spectacle, ever-changing, alive with a million moves, the sublime abyss. A big surprise comes to those who go jogging down several long miles of steep canyon trail. For they come to one of the most picturesque spots in Arizona, Havasupai Canyon. It is the land of the Supai Indians, whose homes are in a Shangri-La of green fields and colorful waterfalls rimmed by towering canyons. This snug little community of 250 souls has its own school and a church flown in by helicopter. The Supai stage a festival in August when the corn and fruit are ripe. Havasu Creek winds its colorful way along the bottom of the canyon, 3,000 feet below the rim, then runs past the village and onward a few miles to the mighty Colorado River. In its journey, it plunges down a series of waterfalls, most spectacular of which are the Navajo Falls, and then the Havasu Falls, in a setting of silent canyon walls that seem to hold up the blue dome of sky, and whose music is a mighty symphony of running blue-green water. From Flagstaff, a broad highway winds down into spectacular Creek Canyon, outstanding for its scenic beauty. It has an intimate beauty, where the Grand Canyon is overpowering in its grandeur. The mighty Mogollon rim from which it is cut becomes a fantastic wonderland of colored spires and castles. They follow along both sides of Little Oak Creek as it flows to join the Verde River. It almost seems that the Lord of creation, in order to make up for lack of water, was lavish in the scenic beauty bestowed upon Arizona. Follow the wide modern highways, and in whatever direction you go, you'll come upon picture book scenery. And if you're adventuresome and not afraid to leave the asphalt, you'll get into Monument Valley, deep in the heart of Navajo land. A land of big distances, of sand and slick rock, where the Navajo is a colorful figure in a colorful land. This is part of the domain of the largest Indian tribe in the United States, the tribe least influenced by white man's civilization. The Navajos are nomads of plateau and desert, their livelihood being their sheep. From the fleece of their sheep, they card and spin wool to weave their rugs. In this still primitive area, the Navajos practice one of America's outstanding native art. As it has been handed down, into these colorful patterns they weave symbol legends and history. Children of the sun, the Navajos typify as much as anything else land of time enough and room enough, land of blue skies, the lonely land, the colorful land, a land as young as tomorrow, a land as old as time.